Well, hi again, and welcome to Jim's Radio Shop. And I'm going to carry on with winding this coil. If you watched my last video, you saw a pretty sad attempt at using my drill here to spin the coil as I played the wire onto it. Didn't go so well. I really didn't expect it to go well. I actually watched back the video, and one thing I'll comment on is that I had the wire coming from the bale of wire going to the coil through my fingers, and what you couldn't see is that it was going over the top of my playbook. Now my playbook has a leather cover on it. It's just sitting kind of on its own little leather tripod, if you know what I mean, and the wire was just casting over it. And what I couldn't hear, that all of you could hear, was this crazy tension sound in the wire as it kind of pulled across the leather top and popped a little bit. So you get a doing, doing, doing kind of sound. I guess I'm not very good at imitating it. And right at the end of that video, you know, I cranked up the drill, mostly by accident, and this just applied way too much tension to the whole thing, and boing, the wire broke. But as I say, I really didn't figure on having success with it anyway. And I do have a question. I'd really like to hear some comments on this. Now, you know, this coil is supposed to be nice and neat. Of course, it's just a basket of wire now. But as I was winding it, it was going on quite sloppy. It wasn't you know, beautifully engineered and all that kind of stuff. It was going on, you know, with turns bunched up and some under others now and then, and gaps and all this kind of stuff. A little bit like what it looks like now. And I wondered if that would work. If you really have to lay this wire flat like it is here, or if you do coil it on kind of sloppily, if that's a word, would it still work? Would it still be close to its proper inductance? Or is it really, really important to lay the wire just as you see it here? My own guess at this, and I'm really not sure, I've never experimented and I've never read anything about it, my own guess is the reason the wire looks like this is because in a manufacturing environment you want to do things as consistently as possible. And if you let the workers jumble the wire up, why, you're going to get 10 different versions of the coil, and occasionally they're going to be so far out from the desired inductance that they're not going to tune in the radio, and your manufacturing process is going to suffer. So, but you know, I could be completely wrong. Maybe this is really important for getting absolutely the correct inductance, and if you don't wind it back pretty much exactly the way it was, you're not even going to be in the ballpark. So I'm curious about that, if anybody has any experience on that. And thanks for the comments. I'm going to follow up on one of the ideas, which makes a lot of sense, and it was something I did think about in the back of my mind before I started using this drill approach, and that was just wind it by hand. It's only 25 turns or so, 24 turns. Why waste time doing all this? And the reason I wasted time doing all this was because I wanted to get a little experience and find out, well, okay, sounds easy enough, what's really involved? And of course the best way to find that kind of stuff out is to try it. So if you watch the other video, you can see I did find out some of the issues with doing this kind of thing, using a drill. So I'm not going to continue with the drill. I'm going to do it by hand. I'm going to follow the very good advice I received. So thank you very much for your comments and advice. I'm going to put the camera up here so it's steady. And the best piece of advice I got is to lay some double-sided tape on this, and then wind the coil onto the double-sided tape. Now, unfortunately, this piece of wire here is just going to be too short now, so I'll just take it off. Luckily, this you know, wire is dirt cheap on a meter basis, and I've got many, many, many meters of it. We'll just pull that off there. And by the way, I just want to make another point here, is that I'm not really making educational or show you how to do it films here. I'm not attempting that. What I'm doing is you're just watching me get on with the work as best I can. And I often run into areas where it's new to me, I haven't done it before, or there's something specific about a radio I've never encountered before. and I'm right at the starting gate on it, and I think it's rather obvious in some of my videos. So I'm not normally, once in a while I'm doing this, I'm not normally doing something, seeing how it works, and then setting up a video and showing you how to do it right. I'm just doing it and suffering the consequences. So I kind of think of it like my version of reality TV. And I see some of the other guys doing very similar things, working away, and all of a sudden something happens and they're off on a new trail of discovery, is the way I look at it. So I apologize to anybody who thinks they're going to get well trained watching my videos. It's not at all what I'm trying to do. Although, you know, you might see something that you would learn from. And you know that old saying, hey, it's learn from your mistakes. Well, there's one that's even better, and that's learn from other people's mistakes. And I'm giving you that opportunity. That's for sure. So all that aside, I think I'll take this, my carefully designed rig. Oh, what do I hear there in the background? Sounds like one of my assistants is coming. I have four-legged assistants in this house. 4 of them, 4 cats. 3 of them are my wife's and my cats, and the 4th one is my son's cat. My son has finished university and he's moved back in to the house temporarily, hopefully temporarily, before he gets out on his own again. And he came along with a cat who has been in a couple of my videos. Let's see. No, it's not around. Just gave a quick meow and took off. Okay, now I'm going to clip this here. Try my best not to clip the wire under there or nick it. I wonder if I can get 2 clips onto it. Let's give that a try. Here. Now, just in case you're wondering where I get most of my equipment that I have, I've been collecting it all my life, and I'm picking it up at yard sales and stuff like that. I'm trying my best not to spend my valuable resources on, equipment. I'm trying to do this, you know, as I think most people would. I'm trying to use vintage equipment too. I'll have to give you a tour of my shop at some point, but not right now, because we're going to wind up this coil here. And I'm pretty sure I can do this by hand. Now the kind of tape I'm going to use is double-sided tape. This tape is the tape I use to tape plastic on my windows in the winter, because it's cold in Toronto all winter long. I live in a house built in the 60s. It's not very well insulated, and the windows are original on this house. Probably the last house with original windows, and they're glass on glass. You know, they just slide. It's just 2 pieces of glass, and they slide and kind of fit. They overlap a little bit. But that's hardly airtight. It's not airtight at all. The first year I was in this house, yikes, it was cold, and the furnace worked hard. And well, now here's always the challenge with this kind of tape. How do you get this off? Especially now, let me take it off here. Especially now that I have it started. Yeah, that's not going to work. See what's happened here. You know what? I can probably start it back this other way easier, because the sticky part will stay down and the paper cover should come off. There we are. There we go. Come on now. So there we are. Now, okay, I've done a dumb thing already. I put the tape on a little too soon because I really should have this wire passing under the tape, coming up to the top. I'm going to have to peel that tape back a little bit. I got to remind myself which of these terminals are the ones I'm after. This one and this one. So, yeah, and I've overlapped this tape, you know, and it's sticky side to sticky side. I'm probably going to have to rip this off now. Now let's do that first. So there you go. There's a good example right there. Don't do what I'm doing. Oh, that's stupid, isn't it? I have to cut it back here. You know what? I like learning this way. I'm not afraid to try stuff. And as I tell everybody, you know, if you know the path through the woods and you always take it, you never learn about the woods. So if you just wander around in the woods, yeah, eventually you will find that path. You will find your way out the other side. And goodness knows if you ever go in the woods again and get lost, you'd be familiar with it. So that's how I explain why I spend so much time stumbling around doing this kind of stuff. Now, where'd I put the tape? Here it is. So I'll kind of replicate the tape installation here after I get this wire started. There we go. I'm just gonna, you know, it's got, of course, insulation on it, but I'm just going to wrap it around her, kind of hold it in place. I have to use some of this old tape here just to pin this down. Good idea, it doesn't work. Fooey on that. Oh, it's a dark and miserable day here today in Toronto. It's raining. Gray. Maybe the sound of rain can be heard on the video. It would sound like tapping. I can certainly hear it. And it's rain hitting the top of the vent of my furnace. The chimney, if you like. Because I'm kind of buried in my basement here. I'm in a spot with no windows. Losing contact with the outside world. Except, of course, through all of you who are watching this. Well, that came off easy. You know, when I put the plastic on my windows, I think it makes about a 25% difference in my gas consumption. I heat my house with natural gas. And I think it's 25%. I think it's that important. And even more than that, okay, just making sure I'm winding this the right way. It raises the comfort in the house tremendously. Okay, so let's get ready to do this by hand. I'm just going to put that there. I really like to have this magnifying glass ready here. I used to have lenses I could put on my glasses and get a better close-up. I think they're right here. There they are. 2 pieces. Oh, gee, just the other day I had some epoxy and I was thinking, what can I do with the excess epoxy? And I could have epoxied this. Duh. But you know what? I wonder What if I get one eye under this? What happens? It's helpful. Now I think what I'm going to try to do is set this up so I can get some tension back from here. And I don't have any kind of apparatus for doing that. I have to come up with something. Let's try my, what can we do with this? That's pretty good. I don't want too much tension. And I'm going to have to put on my one-eyed magnifier here. And I don't have enough hands here to hold a magnifying glass. This is pretty strange. Just got to look through my right eye. And here we go. I'm really having trouble seeing that. And when you look with one eye, you just don't see quite as well. I'm trying to remain conscious of the wire tension too, because of what happened last time. Holy smokes, it's hard to. I gotta get more magnification on the job here. This eye thing is not enough for me. So thank you for whoever suggested the tape, because look at that, I can just put it down. That's a great idea. It's really a fantastic idea. And I'd say who it was, except it's a nickname, and I don't think I'll get it right. I'd have to look on my computer to see the name to give credit. But you know, it's in the comments on the last video, so if you're really curious about who came up with that idea and offered it to me, take a look and see. So what can I do here? I need to prop up my okay, I'll take my junk can, stick my magnifier in it. Hey, that's pretty good. What I'm going to do first is polish this guy up a little bit. Otherwise it looks like I'm looking through a snowstorm here. Snowstorm, oh my god, what am I saying? It's too early for that kind of talk. It's a bit of a sad time up here in this, probably right across Canada, and I'm sure other parts of the world too, like in northern parts of the world, where summer is going away, and we all have to admit that it's over, and none of us like to do that. Okay. Now, with the big magnifier, I can look through with both eyes. And see in stereo. I'm still just not getting the best view of it. That's maybe a little bit better. Oh, I guess maybe it's an artifact of being in your 50s. I still cannot see clearly which side the wire is on. I need more magnification. Yeah, I cannot tell what's going on. Okay, let's get out the powerful magnifier here. How am I going to do this now? stop for a second. Thank you again for the tape idea. Yeah. I'm gonna have to use my magic hands here. Got this at a yard sale with a bunch of other stuff. Didn't even know it was in the box. I almost flipped for joy when because I always wanted one of these guys. Okay, just aim this guy up here. Okay, I think I have sufficient magnification. Now I need some way to hold my reel. And I'm just scanning around my shop for anything that might leap out at me and say, hey, I can do it for you. Not a bad idea, but not quite gonna work. Surely I've got something that will just stand up vertically. It's got to be kind of heavy too, because I can't be moving around. I can't be holding it with my hand. Oh, come on. Okay, let's try this. Bit of a crazy idea. I have a little clamp here, which, excuse me, onto which I can clamp a screwdriver. Okay, there we go. Now, figure out how to put this huge thing down here. I want to try to keep it in the camera view. There we go. Okay, that ought to do it. There it is. Look at that. You'd think I'd done this before. I guarantee you I haven't done this exact thing before. When I was a kid, or at least younger, I tried winding some Tesla coils. Those were pretty sad affairs too. Yeah, I found out about Tesla when I was in college. And it's pretty much unknown. Okay, now I'm going to have to get my eye up close to this. And fit my hand in there, so sorry if you're looking at the side of my head here. Now I'm going to guess a little bit of overlapping really doesn't matter. I'm never sure if I should be wearing my glasses or not when I do this kind of thing. Okay, I think I got it. I think I'm ready to wind. Part of what I'm doing is I keep moving the coil too close to the magnifying lens and losing focus. It's going to take a few turns to kind of get it working for me here. I'm on the third turn. This would not be a good time for my cat to come and try to help me. Okay, it's the fourth turn starting. Again, I'm trusting that getting this exactly right isn't really important. Darn it. I keep pulling it too close to myself here. Got nice tension on the wire, it's just about right. And I've done it again. I just keep moving the coil closer and closer to the magnifier. You know, and moving it away, it slackens up the wire. Oh, maybe that's what it is. Maybe I'm trying to keep tension. And I'm just spontaneously moving my hands closer to the magnet. And I got a real wide spot right in here. And that's 5 turns. Yeah, I think, you know, if you did this 10 times, you'd have real good skill at doing this. It'd be nothing to you. Far from perfect, but I'm not overlapping the wire. For some reason right in there, everything's really wide. I don't know what that is. Why every time I come around to that side, the turns tend to widen out. Whoa. You know, there's a lot of distortions in this lens. Of course, you have the, I think they call it spherical aberration, where on the edges of the lens. Yeah, you know, that's probably what it is. The edges of the lens, the image is all bent and twisted, and I can't tell straight. I can't see straight. I think somebody's told me that before. Yeah, you're not seeing straight. I think that's probably where some of the problem's coming from. So I'm going to get my eye up closer, get a bigger field of view. Less distortion in the important part of it. You know what? That made a difference. You have a much better feel for how to angle it to keep the wire going where it needs to go. I'm still pulling the coil too close to the lens. I'll keep it in the sweet spot here. Lost count of the number of turns I've done. That's not helpful either. So I have a feeling I I'll give you a close-up view of this when I'm done. I can do that. Okay, let's count those strands, and this time I'm going to count them carefully. I need a pointer. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, that's 23 I'm on right now. What do you think, it's better to have too many turns or not enough turns? I think there was 24 on the original. Could have been 25, could have been 23. Okay, let's stop there. My glasses on so I can see something here. Okay, we're heading for this pin, and the wire's going right there right now, so let's just turn a little bit further. Right there. I want to put some tape on that. I'm going to use this tape here. It's a little bit stronger. It's also, you know, I should tape right over it to seal off the sticky tape, or that sticky tape's going to be sticking up everything. Okay, let's cut this. Do a suitable strip. Cutting tape, not easy. Just cut it. Don't let it double over on itself. Okay. It's quite a wide piece, but I think that'll be okay. So we want to stop it right about there. Voila. I'm going to cut this wire with lots of excess wire. There it is. Yeah, you can see with your own eye that the turns don't match up exactly, but I don't have any overlapping ones now. Okay, it may not look as professional as some, but let's see if I can get you a close-up shot of that finished product here. I'm going to use my super magnifier. So, you know, I have not been editing my videos for the most part, and I think it's time for me to start editing these a little bit. Put in some titles and stuff like that, and oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing. So there it is, the coil. A little hard to see with the light reflections here. And I'm not going to be able to get too good a lighting because there's just too much. So there you go. You kind of get an idea of how well I got it. I like the tape under it, the tape over it. It's beautiful. Excellent. That was pretty straightforward too. You know, in this environment you can afford to do things and do them again and stuff like that. And of course, in the manufacturing environment when they were making this stuff, they couldn't afford that. Rework is the death of your business. You got to get it right first time through. You got to get it right every time. Can't afford to be reworking things over and over. So it would have been interesting to see how they do these. I'm sure they have a little jig and controlled spinning and the wire feeding point and everything set up. A little like a lathe, you know. In fact, you could probably rig up a lathe and do this on it. Maybe a little, maybe there's some kind of little lathe people have. Anyway, I'm done here. Except for these final connections. Now, that's a bit of a challenge too. The idea being that you know, this wire is insulated. I don't want to put a kink in it. There we go. Now, I think I can just throw solder on this and burn off the insulation and succeed. Not sure I have much choice. My concern would be I muck it all up and have to start over. But this wire is so thin. I mean, I can't scrape the insulation off of it. I've done it on heavier wires like this, magnet wire, heavier magnet wire. So we'll give it a try, and then I'll just ohm it out and see if it worked. And I didn't have my soldering iron on, so it's got to warm up a little bit. So there we go, though. So that's going on the Philco 91A, and the part itself, I'll show you on the schematic here. Hope that's in focus enough. So it's this coil right here I'm working on, and this is the actual winding, the primary winding, and of course it feeds the B plus to the top of this tube. There's no B plus up here, and if you see my other videos, you know there was definitely an open in this coil, and certainly when I was done with it there was an open. If you haven't seen it, I took the coil and stuck some high voltage on it, and then with the suggestion of another viewer, Bobby, I wetted the coil and eventually got a flash, which really identified the actual break and separation point in the coil. It's quite interesting. And I was thinking about the sparking. If you watch the video, just before there's a flash, there's some sparking. And the sparking occurred maybe a centimeter up the wire from the break. So you have the broken wire, and you could see sparking under the wet insulation all the way up here, just before there was a flash between the 2 points. And I may have blown my high voltage supply at that point. Well, I hope not. I still haven't tested it to see what's left of it. And so I was thinking about that, and I suppose if you have this gap and you apply 400 volts, the 400 volts will appear right across the gap because there's no current flowing. And before the flashover, the gradient, the electrical gradient coming from this point down along this wire would be quite high for quite a distance. High enough to cause electricity, I hate to say that, electricity to jump into the wet insulation and then find its way to the other wire. And you know, I didn't look close enough. I didn't see close enough. Was it sparking on both sides or just on one? I don't want to get into the current flow, electron flow discussion because I don't, you know, frankly, I don't quite understand it fully. I always think of electrons as particles moving, so I would tend to think a spark is an electron moving. And so I guess you could argue that one side has a surplus of electrons and they will jump out into the wet insulation and then travel across. Of course, that's stupid because electrons really don't move very far at all. contrary to what some people might think, electrons traveling at the speed of light in a wire. No. Come on, guys, if you know your electricity well enough, you know the electrons are hardly moving. It's the energy that's flowing through the wire. So I find all these things quite curious how to explain them. Why is there a spark emitting some amount of light you can see with your eye? What is going on there? I mean, supposedly electrons are jumping from one energy band to another and releasing photons, all that kind of stuff. I just don't have a right picture. You know, I like to get these pictures right in my head. And then I use my imagination when I look at something like this and see some sparks. You know, with my imagination, I can see a lot more, if you like to put it that way, and understand things better. And I think this is one of the keys to success with all this kind of stuff, is you need to be able to see with your imagination what you can't see with your eyes. Hey, that's pretty well put. Let's see if my soldering iron's hot now. Now, I can't imagine this is going to ruin anything. It just may not work. I think that's the, that's not going to be strong enough. Yeah, another good rule is don't do stuff with a soldering iron in your hand. Solder when the soldering iron's in your hand, and the rest of the time, put it back. Wow, maybe if I just put some weight on it here. Get a cloth to protect it, and that'll do this so you can see it. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Now I gotta put some weight on it. Hey, let's use this. Let's use this, man. I gotta take the screwdriver off it anyway. Can't say I've ever found a use for this gigantic clamp before. So there he goes. I'm not going to clamp him, I'm just going to let him sit there. Oh, that's good. Okay, so that one and that one. I got my soldering iron set a little hotter than normal. Clean the tip over here. Okay, let's solder this guy up. It certainly seemed to just take the solder. Looks good so far. Suppose I could have experimented a bit with some pieces of wire, but I have a lot of faith that this will make a connection. Don't want to breathe that smoke. I don't want to ever breathe any of this smoke. Okay, turn down my soldering iron over there. Let the smoke clear. Let's get my voltmeter. Where's my voltmeter? Where'd you go? Hey, how hot is that soldering iron anyway? Why don't we just make a measurement here? Probably isn't terribly accurate. See if you can see this. Two. 44, 250. So 259, but I'm not sure how accurate this would be on such a small item. 259 degrees C. I'll have to check and see what good temperatures are for soldering irons. I've never measured. Still, no voltmeter. Where's my voltmeter? Oh, I know where it is. Just one second. Or more correctly, my ohm meter. Okay. We should hear this if we've done the job. Here we go. There you go. Okay, so that coil's ready to go back in the radio. And we can then continue with the old Philco, but I'm not going to do that today. Yeah, I may do it later today, but let me put this gigantic clamp away, which I actually clamp into the rafters of my shop here. Which is a little awkward. If I don't do it right, it will fall on my head, so I'm going to show you. I don't know if I can do this. There's a light right there. So we're looking up at the rafters in my shop, and there's my clamp collection there. Right next to a ceiling light. Okay, well, I think that went pretty good. I got a little bit of wire left, and I now have a finished coil, ready to go back into this radio over here, which I'm just going to set here very carefully. Hopefully we'll get back at that before too long. Okay, well, thanks for watching, and thanks for the advice, and it worked, I'm pretty sure. Looking forward to hearing that Philco work properly. That's all for now. Thanks. Bye.